Nobody expected what the Faulkner twins were hiding. Until the afternoon, everything changed. Most people figured the Faulkner twins were just quiet new kids, kept to themselves, didn't say much, didn't cause trouble. That was true, at least until the day they got cornered after school and revealed what no one in Spokane Valley could have predicted. It didn't feel like home. Not yet. Tyrese and DeShawn Faulkner stood side by side in front of Jefferson Ridge High on their first day, shoulders squared, wearing identical hoodies and the same unreadable expression. Their mom called it their guard face. They'd been wearing it a lot since leaving Oakland. Their mother, Ranetta Faulkner, had just landed a full-time position as a nurse at Sacred Mercy Hospital. With that job came the move, the new school, and the promise. This is a clean slate, boys. She meant it. She always did. But even she could see the stares when she signed them up. It wasn't hate exactly, it was that polite stiffness people wear when they can't figure you out. Tyrese kept to himself. He usually did. DeShawn handled the introductions in homeroom. "We're from Oakland," he said with the kind of easy tone that used to make teachers back home light up. "Our mom's a nurse over at Sacred Mercy." There was a pause. Then a voice from the back muttered, just loud enough. "Figures." Not enough for the teacher to notice, but plenty for Tyrese to hear. He looked at DeShawn, who was already half smiling like he'd caught. At lunch, they sat alone. No one invited them to a table, and they didn't ask. Students watched them, some curious, others suspicious. One kid actually stopped mid-bite just to gawk as they passed. Tyrese leaned over. "This place feels like it's stuck in 2005. DeShawn snorted. "Try 1985. Still, they kept their heads low. They had each other. That had always been enough. Being twins helped. They moved in sync, finished each other's thoughts, could read the room without exchanging a word. But even that couldn't shield them here. It started small. In gym class, Trevor Langley, a linebacker with a buzz cut and a smirk that didn't quit, accidentally rammed into Tyrese during flag football. Not once. Not twice. 3 times. No apology. "You good, man?" DeShawn asked, stepping in. Trevor just grinned. "Didn't see you there." Hard to notice shadows. Tyrese locked eyes with him. DeShawn placed a steadying hand on his brother's shoulder. "Let it go," he murmured. Just loud enough for Tyrese to hear. Later that week, DeShawn found a crumpled paper shoved in his locker. No name. Just 4 words written in thick black ink. "Go back to Oakland." He stared at it, then folded it neatly, tucked it in his pocket, and walked off like it never happened. Tyrese asked about it that night. DeShawn just shrugged. "Doesn't mean anything." They didn't tell their mom. She was pulling 12-hour shifts and came home dead on her feet. They knew she'd worry. Worse, she might storm into the school. They'd seen what happened when parents did that. They made a quiet pact. Stay calm, stay sharp, don't stir trouble. Just like Dad taught them before he passed. After school, they trained. There was a small martial arts studio behind a strip mall on East Sprague. The owner, Mr. Takeda, had known their father from years ago and let them train for free. "Your dad was rare," he said one evening as Tyrese worked the heavy bag. "Strong hands. Steady heart." DeShawn bowed. "He raised us like that. But school only got worse." Trevor and his crew noticed the twins' silence and took it as a challenge. More accidental shoulder checks. More remarks during lunch. One time, Trevor leaned in behind DeShawn in line and whispered, "They say twins can feel each other's pain. Want to test that theory?" That one almost made Tyrese snap. Almost. But he didn't. He remembered what their father used to say. "Never start the fight. Just make sure you're the one still standing." But even silence has limits. And some people mistake quiet for weak. By their second month at Jefferson Ridge, everybody knew who the Faulkner twins were. But they didn't know them. Not really. Not yet. Not because they were popular, but because they were easy targets. It wasn't that they stood out in a good way. It was that they were easy to corner. Trevor Langley had turned the Faulkner twins into his personal game. He didn't always do it loudly. That was the part that stung the most. It was slick, subtle, the kind of cruelty that didn't leave bruises but still found a way to linger. The kind of bullying you couldn't explain without sounding like you were overreacting. One morning in chemistry, Tyrese flipped open his textbook and found a sticky note tucked inside. A crude drawing of a monkey. Underneath it, scrawled in smudge pencil. "Which one are you?" He didn't flinch. Just folded the note, dropped it in his backpack, and turned the page like it was nothing. Later that day, during lunch, DeShawn noticed Trevor watching them. Not with curiosity. With anticipation. Like he was keeping score. like he was waiting to see how far he could push. "You ever notice," Trevor said in gym class, just loud enough for a small circle to hear, "they're like statues. Don't talk. Don't move. Maybe they don't even speak English." One of his friends snorted. "Heard they only talk to each other. Like twins have a secret code or whatever." Tyrese walked past without a glance. DeShawn followed. Not a word. But every time they stayed quiet, the line got pushed further. Teacher saw it, but didn't step in. Mr. Howley, the gym coach, gave them that look. The one that said, "Don't cause trouble, and maybe it won't find you." But it had already found them. Just by being noticed, they'd become a problem. "You ever think maybe we're not supposed to fit here?" Tyrese asked one afternoon as they walked home, the breath from their mouths hanging like fog in the chilly Washington air. DeShawn adjusted his bag. "We weren't built to fit. We're meant to take up space. People just don't like it when we do." Tyrese nodded slowly. "Still feels like we're just waiting for something to pop off." DeShawn glanced over. "We are." Things escalated. In the locker room, one of Trevor's friends knocked DeShawn's gym bag off the bench and laughed. "Oops, didn't see it there." In the hallway, someone whispered the N-word behind Tyrese. He didn't turn around, but it landed like a slap just the same. Then, one day in the cafeteria, a soda bottle came flying out of nowhere. It exploded near their table, fizz soaking the floor. Trevor's table burst out laughing. No one owned up to it. No one got in trouble. A janitor showed up, mopped the mess, and everyone else went back to eating like nothing happened. That was the worst part, how normal it all seemed to everyone else. The only place that felt steady was the studio. Mr. Takeda started letting them train after hours, closing the doors and giving them the floor. "You both carry storms," he told them one night. "But you don't let the storm carry you. That's strength. That's control." So they trained in silence. Punches, blocks, holds. They weren't preparing to fight. They were learning how not to. Still, DeShawn began to change. Less joking. More distant. One night at dinner, he barely touched his food. Their mom looked up. "Everything okay at school?" she asked gently. "Yeah," he muttered, eyes on his plate. "Just tired." Ran at a glance between them. Tyrese kept his gaze low too. She didn't push. Just gathered the dishes when they were done, mouth set tight. Like she knew more than she said. School felt like a pressure cooker. Every day, another test. Another chance to snap. Another chance to break. One Friday, as DeShawn walked past, Trevor leaned in and whispered, "You ever been jumped before?" It wasn't said like a threat. More like a passing thought. Something he was imagining. Planning. DeShawn didn't sleep that night. "You okay?" Tyrese asked the next morning. DeShawn laced up his shoes. "I'm getting real tired of being polite." But being tired wasn't the same as being ready. And sooner or later, one of those lines was going to give. It was Monday morning when Tyrese noticed the first crack. Not in the sidewalk. Not in the wall. In DeShawn. He walked into school with his jaw clenched and his fist curled tighter than usual. Said less than normal, which was rare. DeShawn was the voice. The steady one. The one who made things feel balanced. They passed Trevor in the hall. No words. No bump. Just a stare. But Tyrese saw it. Something shift in DeShawn when their eyes met. Something small. But solid. Like a weight settling. "You sure you're good?" Tyrese asked as they took their seats in class. DeShawn didn't answer right away. Then, under his breath, "I'm fine. I just don't want to keep acting like we owe people silence." Tyrese understood. Because he'd been carrying that same weight too. The invisible chokehold of being the better person. It was the silent weight they carried every day, the invisible chokehold of always having to be the bigger person, of swallowing disrespect like it was part of the routine, even when others tried to drag them down into the mud. That night at the studio, Mr. Takeda felt it too. "Again," he said, holding the pad steady. DeShawn launched a sharp roundhouse kick that cracked against the target with force. Exhale. Reset. Again. The third kick hit even harder, crisper, faster. Takeda lowered the pad slightly. "Anger's not your enemy," he said quietly, "but it's not your friend either. It burns too fast. All that's left is smoke." DeShawn didn't say anything. Just nodded. His shirt was soaked, his stance solid, but his eyes weren't all the way there. Like he was in two places at once. Later that night, at home, their mom had fallen asleep on the couch. Her nursing scrubs still on, one arm curled over a folder of patient notes. Tyrese and DeShawn sat on the front steps, legs stretched out into the cool night. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was just heavy. You think he's actually gonna try something? Tyrese asked, voice low. DeShawn leaned back on his palms. He already is, he said. It's just a matter of when he stops pretending it's a game. Tyrese looked at him sideways. You sure you're ready? DeShawn glanced up at the sky. We've been ready since we were 9. Their dad had made sure of that. Every Saturday morning in Oakland, like clockwork, they rolled out the mats in the garage. Rain or shine. No excuses. If they were sick, they stretched. If they were tired, they drilled slower. But they trained. You don't fight for pride, their dad used to say. You fight for peace. And only when nothing else works. The problem was, peace was starting to slip. The next day at lunch, Trevor walked past their table and, without breaking stride, knocked over a carton of milk right onto DeShawn's tray. It splashed across the table and onto his shirt. Everyone saw it. Some laughed, some just watched. DeShawn stood up slowly. Pick it up, he said, voice low, flat. Trevor turned with a fake confused expression. What? Tyrese reached out, hand lightly touching his brother's arm. Don't, he murmured. But DeShawn didn't blink. I said pick it up. Trevor's boys stood behind him, waiting to see what would happen. So did Tyrese. The whole room seemed to freeze for a beat. Not silent, just breathless. Then Coach Howley blew his whistle from across the room and charged over. Sit. Down. Now. The twins sat. Trevor and his friends backed off, smug as ever. But the message was loud and clear. The Faulkner twins weren't going to keep swallowing disrespect like it was their lunch. By the next morning, the rumors had started. They're violent. They threatened Trevor. They always look like they're mad at everybody. It didn't matter that none of it was true. People didn't care about facts. They cared about whatever story made them feel safer, and painting the twins as the problem was the easiest story to tell. By Thursday, the assistant principal called them in. We've had a few concerns raised, she said, avoiding eye contact. This isn't an accusation. Just to check in. DeShawn's voice was level. From who? I can't share that, she said quickly. Just try to keep a low profile, all right? Tyrese's jaw tightened as they left the office. They just want us invisible, DeShawn muttered. Tyrese didn't argue. We were never really visible to begin with. That night, they didn't go to the studio. They sat in their room. Lights low. Music off. Just waiting. Pressure doesn't build forever. It cracks. And that crack was coming. Underscore. Friday afternoon. The boiling point. It was one of those Fridays when everything in the building felt like it was letting out a breath. Teachers loosening their ties. Kids buzzing to get out. Security guards scrolling their phones. As soon as the last bell rang, Tyrese and DeShawn didn't wait. They moved fast, straight to the doors. Their mom had picked up an extra shift, so it was a walk home today. Not that they minded. They liked the air. But something was off. Footsteps behind them. Heavier than normal. Slower. Intentional. Tyrese picked up on it first. Tilted his head just slightly, enough for DeShawn to catch the signal. They kept walking. Past the back edge of the student lot, where the cameras didn't really reach. Where the teacher cars were long gone. Then came the voice. Hey, you two got a minute? They turned. Trevor Langley was about 15 feet behind them, flanked by Bo Wilmer and Chad Colt. Big. Broad. All of them athletes. And all of them carrying the kind of anger that didn't have a name. Just wait. DeShawn tilted his chin. You lost. Trevor gave a slow smile, smug and lazy. Nah. Just figured we'd clear the air. Tyrese took a measured step forward. Didn't know we had air to clear. Trevor kept coming, slow and steady. People been talking. Saying you two think you're better than everybody. Walking around like you run the place. DeShawn's voice was calm, almost bored. We walk. We breathe. That's it. Go to class. We train. That's it, DeShawn said, his tone steady. Yeah. Trevor scoffed. You train? What is this, some kind of ninja club? His boys cracked up behind him. Tyrese didn't flinch. His posture didn't shift, but his feet were set. Firm. Balanced. Ready. DeShawn stepped forward, slow and deliberate. You really want to find out? He asked, voice low. Trevor glanced around. No teachers. No staff. No security. No cameras. Just shadows, pavement, and silence. You sure you want to do this here? DeShawn asked again. Then Trevor threw a punch. It was fast, but not fast enough. Tyrese slipped beneath it, body flowing like muscle memory. Just like the Saturday drills. Just like the garage. He pivoted, swept Trevor's legs clean from under him. Trevor hit the concrete. Hard. Not with a crash, but with a weighty thud that made a few students flinch. Bo charged next, arms wide, all strength, no control, like he thought brute force was enough. DeShawn ducked, spun, and dropped him. One clean motion. Bo groaned as his chest hit the asphalt. Chad paused, looked at Trevor on the ground, Bo groaning, the twins still standing tall. He raised his hands and stepped back. Quiet surrender. A small group had gathered nearby. Phones up. Recording. No one shouted. No one stepped in. They just watched, stunned. DeShawn looked down at Trevor, not smug, not angry, just breathing steady. You think we don't know how to defend ourselves just because we don't start fights, he said. You think being quiet means being soft? Trevor didn't respond. Blood pooled at the corner of his mouth. Tyrese took a breath. This isn't about showing off. It's about being fed up. By the time the security guard arrived, it was already over. What's happening here? The guard barked, eyes bouncing between the crowd and the twins. Self-defense, someone shouted from the back. We got the whole thing on video. Trevor tried to speak, but no words came out. The guard looked from the twins to the boys on the ground, then back to the crowd. Go home, he said finally. I'll write this up, but I'm not calling the cops. No one argued. DeShawn and Tyrese turned. Backpacks slung over their shoulders. They walked away like it was just another day, but everything had shifted. Underscore 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 underscore. The fallout. By the next morning, the video had spread. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. A 30-second clip of balance, defense, control. By noon, the local news picked it up. Twin students stand their ground after racial intimidation at Jefferson Ridge High. Some people called them brave. Others called them dangerous. But no one could pretend anymore. The truth was out. And when the truth goes public, people take sides. That Monday, Jefferson Ridge didn't feel the same. Students stared. Teachers whispered. Phones lit up the halls like flashlights in the dark. Everywhere, on repeat. Tyrese dodging a punch, DeShawn flipping Bo, Trevor bleeding. The front office was packed before first period. Parents, reporters, a local pastor, someone from the district office. This wasn't gossip anymore. It was pressure. The principal's office. Second period, the twins got pulled from class. Principal Roderick sat stiffly behind his desk, sweating through his collar, looking like a man barely holding his job together. I've reviewed the video, he started, fingers laced tightly. Let me be clear. I do not support violence in any form. Tyrese leaned back in his seat, arms folded. So what do you call it when someone swings on you, and you don't let it land? Roderick sighed, already overwhelmed. There's a fine line between defending yourself and escalating a situation. DeShawn leaned in. His voice was razor-sharp. There's also a line between being silent and staying alive. That shut the principal up for a beat. Eventually, the school made its call. No charges. No suspensions for the twins. Trevor and Bo got 2 weeks off and a letter sent home, not for violence, but for creating disruption. It didn't sit right. Not with Tyrese. Not with DeShawn. And not with a lot of the students, either. Because this time, everyone saw. The video was clear. No punches thrown by the twins. Only redirection. Control. Discipline. One sophomore, Jamie Chavez, posted it with a caption that went viral. They weren't violent. They were trained. Big difference. But even truth can't reach everyone. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Backlash. In history class that same day, a kid 2 rows behind Tyrese muttered under his breath. They probably learned that stuff in juvie. Tyrese turned around slowly. His eyes locked onto the boys. He didn't have to say anything. The look was enough. Say that again, Tyrese said, steady. The boy blushed deep red and turned his head. Teachers started acting different. Some avoided looking their way. Others suddenly tried too hard, fake smiles, overcompensating friendliness. Coach Howley, the same PE teacher who used to ignore Trevor's behavior, was suddenly full of concern. "You guys good?" he asked after gym class, slapping DeShawn's shoulder a little too enthusiastically. DeShawn raised an eyebrow. "We're as good as we've always been." But under the fake concern and cautious grins, something was shifting. Quietly, uneasily, one by one, other students started coming forward. Sierra Parker, a black junior, walked into a school board meeting with a folder thick with saved emails and screenshots, group chats full of racist comments, even a picture of a slur scrawled across her locker from last year. Friendliness. Coach Howley, the same PE teacher who used to ignore Trevor's behavior, was suddenly full of concern. "You guys good?" he asked after gym class, slapping DeShawn's shoulder a little too enthusiastically. DeShawn raised an eyebrow. "We're as good as we've always been." But under the fake concern and cautious grins, something was shifting. Quietly, uneasily, one by one, other students started coming forward. Sierra Parker, a black junior, walked into a school board meeting with a folder thick with saved emails and screenshots, group chats full of racist comments, even a picture of a slur scrawled across her locker from last year. "They told me it was just a joke," she said, "but it never felt like one." Then came Ethan Patel, a freshman who'd been mocked as Curry Boy since his first week, and Emily who said a teacher once told her, "Your English is surprisingly good." All of them had stayed quiet until now. The school had no choice but to respond. Diversity talks were arranged. School-wide assemblies announced. Parents were invited. But none of it felt like justice. It felt like noise. Reaction, not responsibility. That Friday, the Faulkner twins found a letter in their mailbox, torn notebook paper, no return address. "Think you're special now? Better watch your backs." Tyrese read it twice. DeShawn snatched it, tore it into 4 neat pieces, and tossed it in the trash. "We've been watching our backs since we were born," he said. That night, their mother sat them down for the first real conversation since the fight. She cried. "I raised you to be strong," she told them. "Not just in your body, in your name. Don't let this place make you small. Don't let it turn you cold." They didn't say much. But in that silence, something firm took root. Still, standing tall only works if the ground beneath you holds, and some people will do anything to make it shake. The assembly. 2 weeks after the fight, the school hosted a community healing assembly. The auditorium was packed. Parents, students, teachers, even a district rep and a local news crew with too many questions and a tripod. At the front of the room, DeShawn and Tyrese sat side by side, calm and composed. Principal Roderick took the stage, delivering a long, safe speech filled with words like progress, dialogue, and diversity commitment. They floated in the air like balloons no one really wanted to catch. Polite claps followed. Some people nodded along. But everything shifted when DeShawn stood. He hadn't planned to. Neither of them had. But when he rose, the room fell still. No paper. No notes. Just his voice. "Most of you don't know us," he began. "And for a while, we didn't want you to. We came here to finish the year. Do our work. Stay out the way." He paused. But some people didn't like that. Thought we were too quiet. Too different. Too black. A few teachers stiffened. A parent whispered to another. DeShawn didn't blink. They figured if we weren't fighting back, we were weak. But they didn't understand. We weren't afraid. We were raised on control. Our dad taught us that real strength means knowing when not to swing. He looked at Tyrese, who gave him a quiet nod. "We didn't ask to be examples," DeShawn said. "But now that we are, let's be honest about what that means. Don't just say you're listening. Show it. Pay attention when something's wrong. Speak when it happens. And stop blaming the kids who defend themselves like they lit the fire." Silence. Then clapping. Not from everyone, but from enough people that it felt real. Tyrese stood next to his brother. He didn't need to speak. He was already heard. Underscore. Aftermath. In the hallway, kids they barely knew came up to them. "I saw what happened," one said. "I should have said something earlier," another admitted. "I've been through it too, not the same, but I get it." Even Trevor Langley's mom found them at their locker. She looked tired, hollowed out. I'm not here to excuse anything, she said. Just, thank you for not going further. You had every right. Tyrese nodded. We didn't want to hurt anyone. She blinked away tears, nodded back, and left without another word. By week's end, real change began to ripple through the district. A peer support council was created. Every classroom was given anonymous reporting forms. Bias training for staff became mandatory, not optional. It didn't fix everything, but it broke the silence. Underscore. At home, their mother took her first Saturday off in months. She made a full breakfast, waffles, grits, fried apples, the whole thing. She laughed more that morning than she had in weeks. You know what I think? She said, pouring syrup. You two didn't just stand up for yourselves. You made the whole system look at itself. DeShawn grinned. Didn't plan to. Tyrese smirked. Didn't need to. She leaned back. I soft. I'm proud of you. Of how you carried it. Your daddy would be proud too. They ate together. No tension. No headlines. No fear. Just family. Pull again. Underscore. What comes next? But real change isn't just a moment. It's what you carry once the moment passes. Spring came quick to Spokane Valley. Trees bloomed along the sidewalks. Kids talked about prom, finals, and summer. But for Tyrese and DeShawn, it wasn't about finishing the year anymore. It was about walking through it with heads high. They weren't just the twins anymore. They were the ones who stood tall. The ones who made people pay attention. Some students gave them nods in the halls. Others said, "What's up?" A few even asked if they could train with them, not out of fear, but respect. Still, the twins kept their circle small. Trust wasn't handed out lightly. The belts. One afternoon, Mr. Takeda asked them to stay after class. The studio was quiet. Lights low. Mets rolled. He stood holding a small wooden box. Your father left this with me before he passed, he said. Told me to give it to you when you were ready. Tyrese and DeShawn exchanged a glance, a silent conversation only they could have. Mr. Takeda opened the box. Inside were two hand-stitched black belts, embroidered with their names in gold thread. They didn't gasp. They just stood there, breath caught, not from surprise, but from meaning. You've earned this, Mr. Takeda said. Not just through form, but through restraint. That's the part most people never master. They bowed. Deep. Honest. Reflection. Afterward, they walked in silence. A block passed before Tyrese said, You ever think how different this year could have gone? DeShawn nodded. All the time. One wrong move, and we'd be the villains. Tyrese kicked a pebble. Crazy, right? We did everything we were taught. And it still wasn't enough until people saw us. DeShawn paused. Because the world doesn't listen until it's forced to. But once it hears you, it remembers. Underscore. The mural. A mural was being painted on one of the gym walls. Students of all backgrounds, arms linked. It was the art class's idea. One hand in the middle wore a bracelet, just like the one Tyrese always wore. They didn't say anything, but they saw it. The assistant principal stopped them in the hallway one day, her voice tight with effort. I've learned a lot from you too, she said. Thank you for your patience. DeShawn answered, calm. It wasn't patience. It was control. And she understood. Underscore. Legacy. That week, the school launched a mentorship program pairing upperclassmen with freshmen struggling to find their footing. The twins were invited to speak at the first session. Tyrese stepped up. Strength, he said, isn't about how hard you hit. It's how you carry yourself when no one's watching. When people try to break you, and you don't break. DeShawn added, don't let silence swallow you. Speak. Write. Train. Move like you belong, because you do. Even when they try to tell you otherwise. The applause was quiet, but real. By June, graduation was near. The seniors and Trevor's crew were moving on. Trevor? He barely spoke anymore. He walked past the twins one day without a word. No swagger. No smirk. Just silence. He wasn't the same kid. Who threw the first punch in that parking lot? Maybe that was the question everyone asked. But maybe that was never the point. Their mom had clipped the local news article, the one with the headline, Twin Brothers Spark Change at Jefferson Ridge. She framed it and hung it by the front door. A reminder. You two didn't just get through it, she told them. You made it count. That night, as the house settled and the lights dimmed, Tyrese stood by the window, eyes on the still street outside. You think this was the end of it? He asked quietly. DeShawn shook his head. Nah, he said. This was just the start. Because when the world pushes you to the edge, and you choose discipline over destruction, that's not just surviving. That's building a legacy.